guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Shawna. If you're not new, thank you for coming back. So I feel like one of the number one questions that I get asked about is how much money should you budget to bring to Cuba? How do you budget to live in Cuba? Like, what are living expenses like? And I wanted to do this video for such a long time, but I've also shied away from doing this video because I didn't really want to deal with the whole conversation around it. The last time that somebody DM'd me and asked like, what does my budget look like? And I gave them like a ballpark amount. I was getting comments like, that's expensive. Girl, I did not ask you that. You asked me a question and I answered you. So because of that, I didn't really want to, one, put my parents' business out there like that. Two, deal with that whole narrative. But I do acknowledge that this will be helpful and hopefully it will help me to stop getting the questions, because I don't necessarily like getting them and then not knowing how to respond. So I would like to preface this by saying, disclaimer, I am going to be sharing some of the figures for my budget, my personal budget that I do every 6 months, because my budget is worked out to every 6 months. I am going to be disclosing some of the figures for my monthly expenses. The disclaimer is, it is 100% possible to live in Cuba with a budget that is less than this. You do not have to follow my budget to the T. I know people who spend way more than me. I know people who spend way less than me monthly. It is not a necessity. It is not a fixed thing. So me no want to see no comments about, oh my gosh, that's so expensive. I never ask you. With that being said, let's get into how I break down my budget. I'm going to talk about that first and then we'll get into the actual figures. So if you see me looking down, my laptop is here, just so I can be organized. Normally I sit down with my mom and we work on a budget for 6 months at a time. The figures that I'm going to be sharing are monthly figures. You can do the math, just multiply them by 6 to see how much it is. The reason that I do 6 months at a time is because usually I'm away for 6 months, and then at the 6 month point, there's usually some holiday or something where I'm able to go home, or somebody that I know is going home and can take money for me. So it's usually, because of that, I do 6 months at a time. Usually every 6 months I'm traveling, be it a break from the school semester or be it that it's summer and I'm going home. I know I'm coming back and the next 6 months period is starting. So that's why I personally do 6 months. I also have friends who, they don't travel with cash. Their parents lodge money in their accounts and they'll primarily use their card. It's very possible in Cuba, especially if you order groceries online, you can do that. But this is my budget. Let's go into breakdown. So my budget is broken down into rent, insurance, utilities, which are, my utilities are light and water, groceries, cleaning, bike servicing and transportation. And the reason, before I had a bike, it would have just been transportation. So that would have included taxi fare in the morning when I take Makina. That would have included bus rides, and just general, like if I was going out like for dinner or something, or going somewhere that's not like school, I would have taken a taxi, which is more expensive than like a Makina or the bus. So all of that would have been factored into transportation. But now I have a bike, it switched from that to just bike services and transportation if I'm going somewhere where I don't want to ride my bike like in the night, and I'll just take a taxi. And lastly, the gym. These are all the different areas where my budget is broken down into. So let's get into rent. My rent is $320. I live on my land people's property. So I live in a 1-bedroom apartment that is on the property of my land people. Their main house is there, and then my apartment is more so to the side, it's separate and apart from the building. My rent is $320, and that includes the fact that I rent the garage that's on the main house to park my bike. My rent is $300, and then I pay $20 to rent the garage every month. This is all in US, by the way. So that's rent. Insurance, it depends on you. Insurance is paid once a year. The reason I don't have a figure to give you is that it varies based on your age. Insurance for girls are way more expensive than insurance for males. I don't know why. I guess because we can get pregnant because we can procreate is more expensive for our insurance. So every year, the older that you get, your insurance goes up. So I don't have a figure to give you guys, but I factor in insurance whenever I'm working on my budget for the year or for the 6 months. Utilities, light and water. Per month, I budget $100 for my utilities. It's never that expensive, to be honest. The reason why it's kind of put as that, call it say utilities is let's call it say utilities is actually my budget for data and to buy credit, so internet in Cuba, because to be fair, my utilities are included in my rent. However, you'll have a harder time convincing your parents to give you like separate money for you to be able to pay for data and internet, which can become expensive, than you will to get them to give you money for utilities. Work smarter, not harder. I know everybody's gonna inform on me. My mom knows, so mind your business. Next, groceries. So my budget is $300 for groceries per month. I feel like that was one of the things where people were like, that's expensive, or the one person was like, that's expensive. I have friends who live off way less than that. Just because your budget is a certain amount doesn't mean that you use that amount every single month. You don't have to use it off. Sometimes, if anything, I'm the type of person where I rather over budget than under budget, because you never know what can happen. Things are very expensive right now in Cuba, and a lot of things have increased in price from what they were. The groceries, it's actually broken down even more. So I leave $200 on my card usually per month. So if I need to order groceries or whatever, which is what I do majority of the time now, I don't usually go out and buy groceries unless there's a specific thing that I'm looking for. It's just so much easier to order groceries from supermarket vendors. So I'll leave $200 on my card for that, and that's for the month. And then the extra $100 is used at the agrimercado. I'm no point you're going to use $100 US at the agrimercado, but I keep that cash on me to change out into CUP, and then I order stuff off of Mandel from the agrimercado, and that's how mine is broken down. Again, I say I have friends who use way less on food per month. You don't have to do as I do. It is possible to eat less and to purchase less. If you go out and look for your food, it's cheaper than if you have it delivered. A lot of the times, yes, it is, especially the agro stuff. If you go in person to the agrimercado, you can basically decide what you want to buy and what you don't want to buy, and it will be way cheaper than if you order it on Mandel on an app and have it delivered, because they charge you delivery fee, they charge you servicing, basically for them to walk up to the stall and ask and collect whatever. They charge you for that as well. And then they also, Mandel has this nasty habit of charging products. Like they will, whatever it is that they're listing, they will make it way more expensive than how much it is actually at the restaurant or at the place that you're buying it from. So if you go in person, it's always going to be cheaper. So I encourage you to do that. If you're lazy like me, you can order your agro stuff. It just makes, I don't like social anxiety. I don't like dealing with people at agrimercado, but can't bother. So I'll just order mine. But as I say, this is just mine. You don't have to spend that much if you don't want to. And there are months where I don't spend the complete amount. It's really up to you, but I usually stay within like 200 and something, thereabout. Cleaning. I budget $50 US for cleaning. Nobody now pay $50 US for them to clean my space. I think my cleaning lady, to get my apartment clean now, it's 400 pesos. I miss the days when it was like 50 pesos. That was good. But I get my house clean every 2 weeks. Yes, I can clean it myself. Will I? Nope. I don't know if you know about it. I have friends who clean their apartments themselves. Mostly the guys. And I have friends who are guys who have had cleaning ladies and have to change and clean it themselves or whatever. I also know girls who have people that come and clean. Like, most of us just have somebody come clean our place. I don't know if you know about it, but yeah, it's about 400 pesos to have my apartment cleaned. That is nowhere near $50 US. However, as I say, it's just a general thing that's budgeted. You never know what you can use the extra money for or what you might need it for. You don't have to do it. You can budget $20 if you want, or even $10 if you want. However, this is my budget. Next, bike services and transportation. I'm gonna put this the 6-month amount. So everything that I was saying before, that's per month. So for 6 months overall, I budget $480 for bike servicing and for transportation. So like within a 6-month period, that is the total of it. To get my bike service is about 5,000 CUP now. I can't really think right now how much that is in US. My brain's not mathing right now for me to think how much that is in US. But if you're in Cuba right now and you know what the street rate is for CUP and US, you can do the math and multiply it and figure out how much that is. So yeah, but that's just me for 6 months. So that's my bike gets service, or it's supposed to get service once every 6 months. I need to go back up and service it right now. But that's that. Sometimes other things come up that aren't servicing, that you never know what you might need it for, and getting your bike maintained, or if you need to purchase something for your bike, is always going to be way more expensive than a random like expense that comes up like that. So that's why I would always over budget in that sense. It's not something that I use every month, which is why I'm not breaking it down per month. It's just a fixed amount, and if I need it, it's there. If I don't, then it's also there. But yeah. And then transportation, if I'm going somewhere like going out for food or whatever, I usually will take taxi. Or if I'm hanging out with friends and it's not in the day, or it's somewhere where there's no parking like that, I will usually take a taxi. That will be more expensive than if I took a Makina or a bus. So that's what that's for. And as I said, it varies. Last year I was taking taxis every weekend because I was going out every weekend. Yeah, and I didn't really notice. It wasn't bothering me. It wasn't like a strain or some expense, or like, oh, my money done in, or anything like that. And then this year, when I wasn't going out every week, or I wasn't leaving my house every weekend now to go where I was going, I'm like, so I save enough money. Like, I was like, I have a lot more money at one time. Again, it wasn't something that I was complaining about. So it's really up to you. It's not something that has to be used. If you don't feel like going out as much, then you will save more. If you feel like going out more, then you will spend more. It is up to you. Next, and the final expense that I have is gym, and I budget about $50 to gym. The thing with gym now, I might end up, and this is per month, so my gym, this was always an overestimation, because gym was I never went to one of the super expensive gyms or anything like that where I would need to be worried about spending too much money. However, I go to the gym that I go to now, it's 3,500 pesos per month for the membership, and that's fine. That's not super expensive, right? That's kind of standard nowadays, so that's not super expensive, right? However, my boxing classes are what are bringing up the cost of things now, because I go to boxing 3 times a week. That's $15 a week, MLS, which is basically is US. So that's 15 US basically per week, and I'm going every week. So you could do the math, multiply it by 4. So it has increased my gym amount, but it's fine. What I'll do is that I'll subsidize it from somewhere else. So I'll take money from somewhere else where I'd have excess and then use that to pay for boxing, because I've really been enjoying boxing. So that's why it's good when you overestimate and over budget, because then it gives you extra money in the case where you need it for something like that, where that's an unforeseen activity or unforeseen expense. Because I hadn't been doing boxing before. It was after when I already did my budget and started in Cuba. Randomly I was like, oh, I'd like to try boxing, and fell in love with it, and now decided I wanted to do boxing. I didn't have to go back to my parents and be like, oh, mommy, I can have money so I can do boxing. It was just already there. I just had to work it out financially. Some things to note as it relates to all of the points that I have brought across to you today. I am a homebody. I don't go out a lot. I'm not going out every weekend for restaurants, mostly because food that tastes good again in Cuba, and everything is expensive. So I cook way more in Cuba than I go out. So I don't have to worry about that draining my money, because if you go out a lot, it's gonna cost you. So there's that. I have been trying to order in less, But the more you, and with my consistency with gym and working out and boxing, it saves me a lot of money on ordering out. The more you order out, or rather the more you order in, is the more your expenses are going to increase, especially in Cuba, because it is very expensive. It's a slippery slope and it is very expensive when you order in a lot. So try to minimize that if you want to keep your budget down. If you want to keep your budget down as well. And also, taking taxis will increase your expenses. Try to avoid that if you can. Take the bus. I know it sucks. If you can, take a machina. So it's great if you could find a house where you live somewhere central where machinas always pass everywhere for you to go to different directions that you need to go. It's literally one of the best things you could do for yourself financially. I hope this video was helpful. It has been months coming. It's been a long breakdown, and this was the best way that I could give you guys like a peek into what my budget looks like without telling my own parents' entire business. And I hope it was helpful. I hope this kind of gives some perspective to somebody who is about to become a student and they're wondering how much they should budget out. Sit down with your parents, have this conversation. You can show them this video. Hi sir, hi mom. I'm not trying to scam you. It is very expensive over there. And budgets vary, because my budget now compared to when I just started, or not even when I just started, my budget now compared to what my budget looked like pre-COVID is insane, because my budget pre-COVID was way cheaper, way cheaper, but things are way more expensive now. And yes, things are more accessible now in Cuba, which is a good thing, but you definitely have to pay for them. Something else I'd also like to mention as it relates to my rent. I mentioned that my rent is $320 basically, and it's US paying. This isn't necessarily, let me say, this isn't standard, but it's not super excessive either. Rent generally ranges between like 200 to 400 thereabout. And the 400 is more upon the side of if you're looking for somewhere where you can live alone, absolutely alone, and it's a really nice place. I've heard of people who are paying $400 to live alone. $200 is more so if you live like in Bedado. It's not a super nice place, but it can do. And maybe you share an apartment with somebody, but the medium right now is maybe like 250 thereabouts, sometimes maybe even $300. And if you think about it, technically I'm paying $300 for my rent. I just pay additionally for the garage, to rent the garage for my bike as well. But yeah, it's not that uncommon. The more, if you go somewhere that's more a rural location, so like the farther away from the city you go, the cheaper that rent will be. I've heard of people living places and their rent is like $90 US or like $80 US. It's possible. It's definitely not inside the city. So it's not in Havana. It's like way on the outskirts. And it is possible to find bigger places that sometimes might be even super nice and it's like $150, but it's definitely not going to be in Havana. Like it's going to be a good distance for you to get into the city. So it varies. I hope all of this was helpful. If you're not yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. We're almost at 1,000 followers. Please hit subscribe and share this with somebody that you know was curious about budgeting, financing, and everything in Cuba. The next video that I want to do as it relates finance wise is how much I spend in a month in Cuba. But that's kind of hard because I don't really track my spending. Since I have my budget, I just know like, okay, this is how much I'm dealing with for the month, but I'm really gonna try to track it this month when I go over for school. So hope to see you guys in the next one. Hopefully that video will be out, and yeah, bye guys.